Okay, here's what we assume that you know. You should know that an essay is a piece of writing with an intro, body, and conclusion. You're used to the 5-paragraph structure, but most essays are longer than that. However, they still follow the intro, body, conclusion format. Also, by this time, you should know that a thesis is the idea that you're trying to prove in your essay. This should go without saying, but sometimes students forget that writing is about clear communication, and someone will actually be reading your paper and trying to understand what you're trying to say. When you're analyzing something, you break down larger ideas into smaller parts and investigate their meaning. For instance, if you analyze the impact of pollution runoff in Lake Champlain, you could break down into different aspects, such as the types of runoff, stormwater, farm runoff, that kind of thing, the types of pollutants, like nitrogen or phosphorus, or the effects of the pollution, algae blooms, weed growth, etc. There's 5 steps to writing a book analysis type of essay. This slideshow will focus on the first 2 steps, making a thesis and finding evidence. The steps include coming up with a thesis, finding supporting quotes, developing body paragraphs around your quotes, writing the intro and the conclusion. The first one is developing a thesis. Now, many students get thesis phobia, but really, a thesis is pretty easy to develop. Fiction works usually have some common elements like plot, setting, characters, themes, something like that. Think about what stands out to you in the book as interesting or unusual. Ask yourself a question about one of those things. If your question is specific, and then your answer is in a detailed statement, then you'll have a workable thesis. So one of the questions I had as I was reading the book was, why does the author keep comparing McMurphy to the chief's father? My answer was kind of vague in my head, but then as I put it on paper, it came out to a workable thesis. Chief Bromden comes to terms with his father and himself through the help of McMurphy, who unknowingly fights the same fight as his father, but with more success. Because the chief makes a connection between McMurphy and his father, he is able to come to grips with the mistakes his father made and heal himself in the process. So to check your thesis, ask yourself 3 questions. Okay. Is the statement an opinion? Is it provable? And can you find examples like quotes from the book to back it up? If you can answer yes to all 3 questions, then you should be all set. But if you answer no to one of them, then you should revise your thesis. For example, if my thesis was that the reason the chief doesn't want to talk is because he's in love with Nurse Ratched and he has a really weird voice and he doesn't want to embarrass himself in front of her, well, yeah, that's an opinion, but I couldn't find examples in the book to back that up. At this point, I'd ask for questions, think about any questions you have, and jot them down. So, on to the next step. Finding quotes and examples from the book that back up your thesis. The first step here is to think about the big events in the book that pertain to your thesis. Don't even open the book up at this point. Just think in general terms so that you can narrow down your search and not have to start at page 1 to start looking for quotes. The steps I came up with for my thesis are, like McMurphy's first appearance in the book, things about Bromden's father and the government when he remembers things, the World Series incident, that's an important part, stuff at the pool, when Chief Bromden first talks, it's to McMurphy, when McMurphy promises to make the chief big again, that's a big one, the electroshock therapy stuff at the end, and then the party at the end as well. So here's some examples of the quotes that directly back up my thesis from those parts of the book. Notice that the quotes have a clear connection. They mention both McMurphy and Papa. I could have chosen other quotes, but these are the easiest to use because they have the clearest connection. They won't always be like that, but when you find a quote that has a clear connection like that, make sure you use it. Here are some quotes for other parts of the book, like the World Series and the pool. Notice that these quotes aren't as direct. They involve Papa, but not McMurphy. However, they serve another purpose, to show how the chief got to where he is and how his Papa influenced him. I can easily connect those to the present and to how McMurphy influences the chief now. Do you have any other questions? By choosing the best evidence to go with a clear thesis, you will have a solid foundation to build a great essay. So jot down any questions and let me know what you have. Good luck.